YouTube comments from a video titled, Gen Alpha Can't Read and Teachers Are FEDUP. Part 17.
Villa Ramsey 280 wrote,
I had 3 children and 1 lap. My ex refused to take 1 child so I could read to the other 2. My youngest learned to read when his older siblings went to school. The ex would also refuse to let me homeschool my children and he would state that if he didn't know it, I couldn't teach it. I learned that he was extremely ignorant and I would get in trouble for everything. It was parental alienation I learned as he was a convert narcissist.
Barn J wrote,
No way. You told us it takes a village. Systematically destroyed the nuclear family because that's white supremacist. Actively told women not to prioritize their kids so they could advance their much more important career TM. Told everyone their personal individual happiness is the only important thing and any impediment to your personal happiness is oppression. Told men they are not allowed to act masculine or discipline their children if they're even around. Removed God and religion and the role of the church in raising respectful adults. And now kids aren't being raised properly. What?
At Yasha Sponja Girl wrote,
Okay, I'm a Gen Z here, but I'm going to say some things that are harsh. Also, some of my own experiences. Possibly just in my some might just be requirements in my state and not others. But otherwise, my takeaways. When I was in kindergarten, you had to be potty trained by then or you couldn't be there. I was. There was still bathrooms installed inside the rooms just in case, and if somebody had an accident, it was the parents' job to deal with it. I should know it happened to me, but it wasn't my fault. Long story. Anyway, if your kid isn't potty trained by kindergarten, unless they have something going on, that's straight up child abuse. We'd constantly be read to in school. I actually had a 3rd grade reading level. When I was in preschool, read to your kids, take away the tablets, and show them some educational cartoons. It'll actually help them more than you think. Sure did for me. I was not allowed to have a phone until around the end of 5th grade. My only access to the internet was through my dad's computer and my Kindle. Speaking of that, I also must say that teacher was incredible and challenged us more than ever. Sad to say she passed away this year. This is tragic, but technically, until 10th grade, you can't be held back for heavy failure. I also am confused on why kids like busy work when we hated that and loved the creative aspects. What happened? The aftermaths. The pandemic, it killed my high school experience. Half my 9th grade year was online. I chose to do my 10th the same way. Went back my 11th with a mask mandate and only really enjoyed my senior year. Modern day, I had a job, but got fired first day. It is not because of what you think. I despise TikTok and I didn't touch my phone. It's a long story, but I'm on a better path. And similar to my friend, I'm getting help for a start of a brighter future since I have goals. Enough about that. The alphas. I'm just upset that this is how it is for them. They'll be shamed more and more than they already are, and yet everyone will blame somebody.
Quasi 4 Heaven wrote,
Can the parents read? That's the question that just came to my mind as I am watching this. How sad it will be if this continues and these kids who can't read become parents who can't read.
Villa Ramsey 280 wrote,
My children had to be taken out of school and with a read out load program to learn how to read. My son was potty trained, but the teachers didn't give him a restroom break enough during the day, so he was wetting himself.
At A Reasonable Person 24 wrote,
If your kid can't read YO, you have failed as a parent. If your kid is NOT potty trained, you need to be charged and sent to parenting classes and pay fines.
Jorge Madel wrote,
And this is why the U.S. has the H-1B visa. They need intelligent people from other countries to build us the technology/medicine that we currently have. Other countries prioritize education above everything else. And now that Trump removed the H-1B, this country is going to suffer. Also, it doesn't help that many foreigners don't want to come to the US anymore because they don't want to be sent to prison by ICE.
At user VG8Ox3 he1 I wrote.
It takes parents to raise a child, not daycare staff, not teachers in government schools. It takes parents, a mother and a father. The problem as always comes down to single mothers.
At blank VJ1MC wrote.
Oh, our teachers' unions forced a shutdown of primary schools for absolutely no reason, and now they want to complain about how their students aren't prepared. Fire every union teacher.
At TrashPanda003 wrote.
Whatever happened to the weekly AR test? They pretty much made us, in elementary school, take a test on a book each week or we'd get in trouble.
At Scoom2345 wrote.
I know that everyone likes to blame the kids, it's what older people do. But I try not to be like that. The system is broken, school sucks, teachers use AI, and classes are boring, fix the school.
A Strange Axel wrote.
Dude, it's not just Gen Alpha. You have full-grown YouTubers who read articles for their channel and they'll stumble through and misread entire articles all the time.
At Divinity Awakened wrote.
This is nasty. Who the heck is so lazy they don't potty train their kids by 2 years old? My family was all finished by 18 months for every kid. What the heck?
At Excalus Attacks wrote.
This is the result of a generation of no child left behind policies that created a system where kids are passed unmerited so that schools don't lose their funding.
Jono Funk wrote.
Upcoming father here, our plan is to take advantage of the fact that children are mimicking machines. My wife and I agree that we will both read from physical books more so our child will simply see that as normal behavior to copy.
A Don Courier wrote.
This is bad parenting. This is the issue: parents not making the kids do their homework or read books at night. We made our 2 girls read every night before bed for about a half an hour to an hour. We stopped enforcing that at about 14 when their homework loads started getting heavier with high school work. But this is a parenting issue. Parents want to be their friend to their children when they should be a parent to their children.
At Sunflower8587 wrote.
3 things: Common Core, soft parenting, and devices dominating everyone's time, even parents. Common Core is horrid. Go back to traditional math, for example. In NYS, they passed a law that I actually agree with. Students are not allowed to have their phones while in the classroom learning. Of course, parents and kids are freaking out about this. What if there's an emergency? What if? Look, 911 doesn't need 40 zillion people calling them about the same thing. Teachers and staff have phones if any kind of communication is needed. I went to school even before cell phones were a thing. To parents and kids, you will survive a few hours without your phone. So just chill. I wasn't allowed to call my dad at work. I had to be bleeding profusely or dying. When parents are working, their bosses don't want to see their employees on their phones with their kids dealing with minor problems that can't be discussed on lunch, a break, or after work. And kids need to be paying attention in school, read, and follow directions. When they don't read and follow directions, it creates more work for other people. The world does not revolve around just them. They need to get out of that mindset. That's a soft parenting outcome. Parents not potty training their kids by kindergarten unless there is an actual issue that can't be helped should be considered child neglect. You'd think they'd want them out of diapers ASAP so they don't have to buy them anymore. They're expensive.
A Shadownian wrote,
Whatever happened to not passing kids? I mean, if they can't read the test or do what is expected of them, they fail and get held back until they can. What's the issue? That's how it was when I was in school. The motivation for a kid is to not be that person that gets held back because they couldn't figure something out. To make them study to avoid that fate. If they don't want to put in the work then, well, see you next year. Why are we dumbing down the lessons? Why are we having kids in high school that can't read or sign their names? That's the school system's problem, cause they are allowing these kids to pass and continue on, knowing they are not ready to continue. As well as being a parent's fault for not getting their kids to where they should be. This is why we have so many college kid videos of people who can't even answer basic first or second grade level questions. So no, I don't feel bad for teachers. They are part of the problem. They are passing these kids they know can't do the work because they don't want to deal with these kids, and they pass them on to the next teacher. Till you have young adults who can't go to an interview without mommy. You have adults who can't sign their name or read cursive. You have adults who think a quarter of an hour is 25 minutes. The teachers are just as much at fault as anyone.
Daniel de Medeiros wrote,
230. How is this real and accepted in society? Is there a subspecies emerging under our noses? We cannot allow soiling at this age to be normalized, as it's one of the only real/early indicators of childhood sexual abuse educators can identify. This trend will cause greater societal harm than the inherent disgust we feel hearing the story.
At Katherinek 4581 wrote,
Homeschool mom here. I'm really not trying to brag, but my oldest was reading high school level books, think Lord of the Rings, when he was 9. All of my kids read novels and finish them regularly. My daughter read the entire Little House on the Prairie series multiple times when she was in elementary school. My youngest, 11, is reading the Green Ember series for the second time. It is appalling and quite horrifying to think there are children out there who not only do not like to read, but cannot read. I want to scoop them all up and teach them all.
At Roger Wilkager wrote,
I'm 6 years younger than my siblings, and I remember the entire family sitting around the family room taking turns reading books while I was learning to read. And no one was wearing diapers in preschool, or during my earliest memories.
At Waiting for Him 111 wrote,
Huge issue with the younger generation is moms that have to work to help with the bills and single-parent homes. My kids were potty trained at 2 and taught at home. I was blessed to be able to do that. Our society teaches women if they don't bring in income, they are worthless. So no one is raising the kids.
At Lazarcats wrote,
My sister has always leaned on stuff like iPads to raise her kids, and it has started to show. Nephew can barely read or write, can barely do math, but will yap endlessly about Italian brain rot and watch 45 seconds of a YouTube video before switching to the next one.
At Culpage 6228 wrote,
I'm surprised that modern brain-body science has not made its way into teaching methodology. Consider this. You need a longer attention span to get through a book, but social media shortens that span from hours to minutes to seconds, in some cases. The body is a learning machine, and many people feed it junk food and expect it to function properly. I could go on and on and on. The way out is obvious. Teach attention span, proper nutrition, memorization, critical thinking, and on and on and on.
At Liskalinson 2692 wrote,
It's a breakdown of community, resources, and knowledge. People don't know how to parent. The community isn't educating them. People don't ask listen. There are no resources to support that learning. the determined breakdown of education system, and promotion of rabid individualism.
F. Daverdale wrote,
Both of my Gen A kids could read before preschool. So maybe add a most or something, making it a majority in the title, instead of an all-encompassing statement.
At Anime GIFFY wrote,
Yet again, poor's blaming and fighting each other while the rich piss on their faces, making them work 3 jobs and have no time to raise their children, having tablets brainwash them, making the next generation even less educated and easy to control than the previous generation. Anyways, it's morning, Emma, go play some video games.
At Owen8636 wrote,
I feel for the Year 7 teachers so much. I'm teaching a 5-6 class and many students are so far below their reading and maths levels. The gap only widens as they get older. I have students finishing grade 6 who don't know their times tables. It's scary to think how these kids are going to go in high school.
At IMA7333 wrote,
Oh, geez, these new parents are something. Both my kids are now adults, but they both were fully potty trained by 2 years old. They can even read and write by 3 years old. When a Chinese teacher complained to me that my son can't speak Chinese, I told her to teach him. I even taught my son to read Chinese, although not too many characters. We live in Indonesia.
At Naspun17 wrote,
Big split is forming between those who are intelligent and those who are basically brain dead. Imagine almost being in high school and not being able to read. Be prepared to be taken advantage by of. Knowledge is power, and a lot of these Gene Alpha people are going to be powerless and hoodwinked by those with knowledge.
And MexMimi2 wrote,
How is it that the people who are supposed to be teaching children to read are fed up? I learned the basics of reading in basic school and continued to develop my reading skills in primary school. My parents didn't teach me to read. My teachers did. I went to school at 3 years old, a little early, yes, because 4 is typical, but I would leave my house and go to school because the school was really close, so parents and teachers agreed that I should go, since I wanted to go. I most definitely wasn't in need of potty training at 3 years old, so that's just crazy.
At Unique Wisdom wrote,
I will start by saying teachers are underrated heroes and sheroes. Story time. I have a family member and their child doesn't read well. She hasn't for a long time. When I talk to her and ask her, how's school going? She always says she doesn't like reading BC. She has trouble with her words. She has had the extra reading time and a tutor in school. However, there were 2 things that disturbed me. 1, since it was the beginning of the school year, there aren't enough teachers or assistants to take them to the library. They are not allowed to go alone. 2, the child's parents overheard our conversation and became upset with the child. They claimed they didn't know she was still having problems. Most of the things you said in the video apply. 2-parent household, everyone works, no time set aside for anything except what the parents want to do for themselves. The sacrifices aren't there anymore. Children are looked at as burdens, not gifts from God. No one talks anymore, and God forbid if I say anything, then I'm reminded that it's not my child or I'm being nosy. The child gets scolded, which means now they shut down. So by the time they show up to school, their spirits are broken and they rebel against the teacher. Yes, sis. It takes a village, however, in a village, everyone plays a part. The system is rigged for our children in America to fail, and it will only get worse if we don't work together to help save ourselves and our children.
As Sig Cipher wrote,
We are blaming parents when we need to blame the system that keeps people down. If people don't have access to proper education and healthcare, they can have babies whilst being unable or unwilling to do their job as a parent, and it continues on with their children and their children's children. Children, systemic, and whilst it's not named anymore, we still have a class system that holds people back from doing anything more than surviving.
The dared priest wrote,
I was potty trained at 18 months. I knew my ABCs and 1, 2, 3 before kindergarten. I could also read. Example, the cat ran. In first grade, we started learning cursive. These people are bringing forth their own dark ages.
Editora Blue wrote,
I homeschool. Thai homeschool. My kids are going to be running the businesses that public school kids can nearly get hired at. Good luck to all you who don't take responsibility for your kids' education.
The Public Health Ired wrote,
Parents need to be parents and read to them. Slow down for them and meet their needs. Make learning fun in home too. Introduce concepts. Ask the kid what they learned at home and teach the parent. I'm so disappointed in parents who are lazy and expecting a stranger to raise your child. Teachers are teachers, but the attitude, due diligence, respect, it all starts at home.
Editora Blue wrote,
Millennials mostly were not taught responsibility. There was always someone else to help us when we were kids and teens. Now we are in our 30s and now there is no one else, and our gen is dropping the ball hard.
Communication Sorry wrote,
My parents got me Velcro light-up shoes when I was younger. Not instead of teaching me to tie my shoes, but because they were cool. I still learned how to tie my shoes. I just didn't get all that practice like all the other kids. Now I suffer slight dyspraxia with laces, ropes, wires, etc. It isn't a huge deal, but I notice it. What I'm saying is you should teach your kids everything you can, the least of which should be to use the bathroom.
At Cake 3129 wrote,
Californian here. What happened to Head Start where the rules for enrollment is 2 years old and 9 months, also potty trained? SMH. This is a disservice to your child.
Esteban Ramcu 4860 wrote,
If they are not meeting grade level, then punish them. You fail a grade. You get summer school. You don't get to graduate. Actually give them a reason to not fail.
At Maxon at the Fort wrote,
On the parents' ends, limit the brain rot exposure by setting internet limits, and on the teacher's side, teach the actual curriculum instead of 1,000 plus made-up pronouns and what politics they should align with, like leave your personal politics at the door if you're a teacher and teach kids the curriculum you're being paid to teach.
At the Deep Fryer 745 wrote,
This might be a bit controversial as a take, but I attribute my ability to read to my mother reading things like the Bible with my siblings and I as kids. She helped us read and sound out the words. I'm not the most religious person now, but even I'll admit that family Bible study gave me an advantage.
A swing voter Hertz 6NN wrote,
My kids are Gen A. My 14-year-old is reading Thomas Sowell, and my 11-year-old debates political theory with me, and then drops a "that's what she said" that makes me spit water across the table. All hope is not lost. Parents need to parent.
At Ivan Valdez 4540 wrote,
You have to understand that some of these parents that expect teachers potty train their kids were the same generation that were doing the Tide Pod Challenge. What you expect?
Comery wrote,
So I am from Belgium. My kids are 10 and 12. They speak Dutch and are learning English and French. My oldest learns Latin too. They like to read, but I really encouraged them to read Belgian comic books so they could learn in a fun way and get an appetite for reading. My take on this is, it doesn't matter what you read as long as you are reading something.
At No Trilly My Name 3736 wrote,
Every culture that's had an alphabet for the last 4,000 years, these symbols represent sounds. Put them together and they make words. Some mouth breathing, sub 40 IQ troglodyte in the last decade. Nah, that's not it. Just look at the pictures and guess. How fucking stupid do you have to be?
Jennifer Hanses wrote,
No child left behind screwed the educational system. Because previously, kids who couldn't read were left behind a grade to try again until they got the lesson. Stop punishing teachers and go back to making kids repeat grades when they can't do the work. Eventually, they'll get it. This is providing that a disability isn't in play, in which case the child should get a specially tailored plan to help.
At Eric Barlow 6772 wrote,
One thing parents really need to understand, and I hope the pandemic did teach this to many, is that the parent is the primary educator. You have to encourage learning/reading/mathematics at home. Teachers can teach, but there are only so many hours you can be in a classroom.
At Tessa Hall 797 wrote,
They should call Child Protective Service if a kindergartner is not potty trained at all. I don't mean an accident. It means the child is being neglected. Family needs to be investigated.
Hedwig GJ2D wrote,
My kindergartner's teachers change his diaper because he has a disability and is in a special class. You're actually telling me 5-year-olds who qualify to be in a general education classroom are not potty trained? Parents, please put down your electronic devices and start parenting.
David Comito 505 wrote,
Instant access to interact in a potentially lucrative gateway to fame via social media is something previous generations did not have. Why spend time in school earning your access to the adult world when an access point exists on your phone?
Hardy Bryan wrote,
It's the parents in the last couple generations. In my day, parents backed the teachers. If I came home with a bad grade and started crying about the teacher hates me, I was given a reason to cry. Nowadays, ignorant parents decide to demonize and threaten teachers, who know far more than they do if their kids aren't studying hard enough. Parents who don't think school matters have kids who don't think school matters. I was Gen X. We were the least supervised, least parented generation ever, but we knew better than to disrespect the teacher or their assignments, except the unfortunate kids whose parents didn't care.
At Hollygram 2025 wrote,
It should be considered that 1 in every 30 children in the United States are diagnosed with autism. Some of those children might actually have autism, but have not been diagnosed yet. Please remember to have compassion because these are children that we're talking about. They are not just your job or a paycheck. Like I said, it might be a case of undiagnosed autism. Instead of complaining, try communicating with the parents about your concerns. If you have been paying attention to the media, you will know that autism is an epidemic, especially in this country, so be prepared for that. And remember, it is not the child's fault. And it is not the parent's fault. But if a child is in your care, then you need to do what's necessary to help that child and talk with the parents so that a proper caretaker and a plan can be implemented. I would urge teachers that are dealing with these kinds of behaviors about the symptoms of autism and have those children properly evaluated before venting about it on social media or starting a war with the parents. Clear and precise communication is important to find solutions.
At Super Summer 58 wrote,
My granddaughter learned to read early. I read to her every night, and when she had to read instructions to play games, she learned really easily. If the teachers would teach reading and writing instead of discussing their sexuality with the kids, they'd be better readers.
As Silver Jeffrey wrote,
How can someone expect a teacher to potty train? I mean, I don't think most of us want teachers wiping their kids' ass and hanging out in the bathroom with them.
At Halg 3625 wrote,
My son is Gen Alpha, but I was born in 1988.
I was a straight A student who loved school. So when my son was struggling, I panicked. No matter what I did, he was barely showing any progress. But luckily, the school had special programs and they worked with me very closely. I had his teachers as personal phone numbers, and we kept in touch every day. We went over plans together and we focused on approaches to homework as well as schoolwork. It took a lot of patience and effort, but now he's not just doing well in school. He's excelling. I'm so thankful for the school's programs, and I'm thankful that they were willing to work so closely with me. I knew that our nation's children were struggling, but I didn't know it was because of a lack of effort from the parents. I'm genuinely disappointed. I guess I was looking for answers as to why my son was struggling to begin with. I thought that maybe there were a multitude of modern factors that were affecting everyone. I forbade my son to own a tablet or a phone. Maybe that's just a millennial's naive attempt to explain what could be causing stupidity in modern kids. I think maybe my son's initial struggle was caused by bad genetics. Or maybe I just need to accept that my son isn't a nerd like me. Maybe he just needed a lot of help, and there's no real reason as to why. Who knows? It's still a mystery that I wish I could solve. Now, I suppose I should just be grateful that my son is doing so well now.
At Golden Swayze wrote,
When I was a kid, they gave the parents hooked on phonics to have at the house to reiterate what was taught that day at school. Thank God for being born in the 90s. Wow.
At Hallowed Sparrow 9432 wrote,
I remember when scholastic book fairs were the talk of the two for the entire week. Kids spend so much money on books, now none of them want to read.
At Thegenweijbert 1066 wrote,
Gen Alpha, I was having this problem in high school, and I'm class of 2012. In every class, there was one kid who literally still had to point and read one word at a time. Popcorn reading from textbooks during class was fucking unbearable because of this. You're telling me it's gotten worse?
At Jags 333 wrote,
My Neo Hugh is 5, and he reads at like a 7th grade reading level, can do basic math with ease. He can geo-track if money and money owed when we play Monopoly. He knows how to clean and take care if his own things and himself to a certain extent. He knows how to cook breakfast, simile stuff, just like scrambled eggs and meat. He knows how to weigh UO coffee, grounds, and pack a portafilter to pull espresso shots. He will just decide his dad needs caffeine when his dad's working and just make him espresso. He's very advanced on so much for his age, but I worry school will actually hold him back because kids with parents who don't care need everything slowed down or dumbed down. The teacher has to give them extra attention, and the whole class is dragged down to the level if the lowest common denominator. We need tiered school systems in the US. Put all the dumb kids in their own schools and stop dragging down the children whose parents actually give a fuck.
At X 100 Kilos wrote,
What is wrong with these parents? My daughter is 2 years old, just turned actually, and she is working on potty training. She's at the point not where she'll know she'll have to go, or accidentally went, and still goes to the potty and takes her diaper down, and sits on the toilet, and goes, or tries to go. She even knows how to use toilet paper. It really sounds like these parents are just really distracted on phones or not trying. Any kid who grows up in this generation and is decently smart, literally, won't have any competition in the world. The sky is the limit.
At Carajalbert 6074 wrote,
My best friend is a special ed teacher. She spends a good portion of her money just for food for her students. Parents aren't even feeding their children. It is hard to learn when you are starving.
At Kevin Streeter 6943 wrote,
Boomers were the reading generation. We were reading adult-level books as teens. They were beyond what was assigned in school. I had adult-level reading ability at 13. It is about the desire to learn. Later gens seem to be losing that. By adult level, I mean college level. At 15, I was checking out books from the local college library. That would be considered gifted today. It was normal in the 70s. The librarian did not see it as odd. I read 1984 at 16.
At Lubongaferi wrote,
Gen Z also has issues with they're there for 4 to 2 and the like. When I was in high school, we had to spend extra time on that, junior year. I hate Generation Alpha more than my own because both refuse to learn, but Generation Alpha comes with a fascist point of view and has learned nothing all the while. Yes, their parents ignore them or whatever, but so did mine, and I didn't turn into a little iPad psychopath. Even with my equivalent of an iPad back then, the Nintendo 64 being in the household, I made art, drew up my own stories. I chose to do so. I used my brain. These kids aren't doing that.
At Marshmilo 8641 wrote,
I went to a store some time ago. The young girl at the counter did not know how to spell Franklin. I told her, as in Benjamin Franklin. She did not know who that man was. I ended up spelling it out for her. This is bad.
At IILLLLLLLLI wrote,
Have we considered not dumbing down the curriculum? If they can't pass, they don't pass. Make them repeat until they understand, or, in this case, read at grade level.
At Hypothetical Tapeworm wrote,
I blame the parents above all else. I saw it coming when I graduated from high school in 2019. My graduating class was so underwhelming, so underachieving compared to the class of 2018. We were the last class to have a normal pre-pandemic graduation. After that, the kids only knew Zoom and TikTok. These kids then went to college, didn't even try, but got their degrees anyway. Some of us are parents. We are already lazy, passive, and apathetic. I cannot imagine what they're teaching these kids at home. I work at schools as a sub, and there was a kid in 3rd grade in my class. One activity I had the class do was a word search. The kid walks up to me and says I'm done, and presents me the word search with everything covered in yellow highlighter. I ask him, "Are you sure?" I just see it all covered in yellow, and another student chimes in, "Oh, don't forget to cover your mouth when you're yawning." And another student chimes in, "Oh, it doesn't know what the word search says." 3rd grade? He can't read at all in 3rd grade. How did he get to advance this far without reading? What are his parents doing? He should not be in general ed, I'm sorry. He should be receiving educated, specialized to his needs that will teach him the skills he needs to be the best version of himself. If general ed is not working, allowing him to stay is a disservice. His time is wasted in an institution where the ability to read is expected by default. He must be taught how to read. This is unacceptable.
The Freedom Co9CQ wrote,
They can't read because they lost the most important years due to the pandemic, and 75% of teacher prize today are lazy paws that couldn't be bothered to actually do their job.
At Cheryl 8780 wrote,
Why wouldn't you potty train your child as soon as possible? You would think not changing, buying diapers would be a huge incentive for any parent to get their kid using the potty. I cannot relate.
At Celestial Kitsune 13 wrote,
On Facebook, someone wanted a Halloween book recommendation for her son that he needed to read for a school assignment. Someone recommended Frankenstein and another Edgar Allan Poe. The poster replied that those were too hard as her son was, only in the 5th grade. Wheat? I read both of those before I reached 5th grade. Grade 6th and 7th was when I started studying things like Shakespeare.
At Lena Dong 7848 wrote,
I remember my kids' nursery for 3-year-olds wouldn't take kids unless they are potty trained. My son had a couple of accidents when he first went because he had too much fun playing and didn't go until the very last minute, which is normal for 3-year, so the teacher would help clean up and change him. 5 and not trained is simply ridiculous. I can see teacher not wanting to help change kids' underwear or diapers when they are in elementary school. Sa comes to mind really quickly, wouldn't want to risk it.
At Ren Pixie wrote,
Village Maya dollar my mother and dad made sure I was potty trained by 4. They knew I should be toilet using by 5 for kindergarten. They wanted to give me a year to get stabilized. But you know what? I'm a late-aged boomer and proud of it. Thank God my niece and nephew are homeschooling their broods.
At Geordie 40 Growing wrote,
These have grown up in a world full of distractions. The parents are distracted and don't want to be bothered, so they put the kid in front of a screen. 5 years of that, then sent to school. And people wonder why these kids can't listen, control their behavior. They think they above others, especially the teacher, because the parents teach them not to listen and to question everything they are instructed to do. But the crazy thing is it's all by design to destroy Western society.
At Carl Costello 6462 wrote,
Some of this problem is of the teacher's own creation. They supported the teachers' union in these idiotic experimental teaching techniques. When I was a kid, they had me crawling around on the floor in the classroom. Me and a few other kids very embarrassing saying that the reason we can't read is because we started walking before we started crawling. Remember phonics. Sounding out words. Repetition builds strong foundation. They skim over every subject, then move on. Instead of spending extra time in review, they introduce meaningless classes like recycling for 6 weeks. Remember, teachers, we're okay with 2 plus 2 equals 5. Pushing the trans agenda. Protecting your kids by transitioning them without your knowledge. Now, this generation of teachers has to deal with the corruption of the previous generation.
At Daniel Rossick 2960 wrote,
The potty training in kindergarten thing makes me feel like kids are growing up slower. My 31-year-old sister is 16, but in many regards, she's at the level I was when I was in middle school, maybe even lower. She's scared to be home alone, naive socially, and is a poor reader/speaker, despite being a smart kid and a good student, grade-wise. But I swear, the books I was reading for fun in 5th and 6th grade would be beyond her abilities as a 16-year-old.
At Sean Whalen 6960 wrote,
This is the problem with American culture today. Both parents are required to work another way. We don't support families, long hours to just scrape by. They barely have time to raise the kids they shouldn't have. But we are also always on edge here, because we're all on the brink of financial ruin. Maybe if we actually concentrated on building a better society instead of line go up, because line must go up. Our priorities today are a joke, and teachers should not be underpaid to raise your kids so you can yell at them.
At Mr. DLT 123 wrote,
They buy their 175-pound 7-year-olds $1,100 iPhones, an Xbox, and cases of Doritos to sit on the couch and TikTok 10 hours straight, then complain that the teachers aren't doing their effing jobs. I have a bird's eye view of a school bus stop, and I'd wager that I'm not too far from the truth for a huge chunk of today's parents. My wife is a school principal and sees more young teachers resigning every year because it's getting too dangerous to even tell a kid no for a near poverty wage starting salary. I could tell you some secondhand stories that would make your toes curl.
At IH8 Stuff 3 wrote,
Can we just call a spade and say that it's all poor kids? Specifically, poor black kids. We're raising generations of people destined to be homeless. It's cruel and disgusting.
At Silith 5627 wrote,
I feel this with my niece and nephew, 11 and 10. They can barely read. Their older brother, 16, can read at his level, but that took a lot of effort. My sister, of course, carries blame for it, but so does how kids are taught nowadays too. When I had them for a weekend, I was helping with homework, and I told them to sound something out when they asked me about a word they didn't recognize. They had no idea what I was talking about. They said that they're taught to recognize on sight the word, so memorized, not spelled out. Absolute ridiculousness. Don't even get me started on how they're taught math, and no wonder it's not sticking.
At Gerald Hammond 3260 wrote,
I taught in public schools for nearly 3 decades, and I saw all this coming as technology was being introduced into the schools. This was a foreseeable problem that we are only now starting to address in some states by banning phones and returning to textbooks. Children need to be able to read and write before they start school. They obviously must be potty trained. I taught almost exclusively upper-level high school students, and as the years went by and the phones became more addictive with apps, you could see their critical thinking skills diminish. We are headed toward a real-world idiocracy.
At I Am Still Cuddling Cats wrote,
I am Gen X, mother of 2 well-educated millennials. When did going to college and getting at least a master's degree stop being an expectation? This makes me ill. Please, parents, if your children can't read by age 4, go get help for them.
At MS, Wilson 6439 wrote,
I blame the neglect of parents. They can't stand their kids, and they don't want to be bothered. A lot of kids to get food stamps and child support.
At Melascension 494 wrote,
I just checked. It has a bunch of videos on how to teach your kids to read. If your kids can't read, do your bloodline a favor and watch them.
At Brass Honcho 1114 wrote,
It does not take a village. Homeschool parents know this. Get your kids off phones and social media. Make them read. Don't tolerate bad behavior. Problem solved.
At Lester Stone 8595 wrote,
Technology in the classroom should be extremely limited, not just for students, but for teachers as well, many of whom spend the school day communicating with fellow teachers on Teams instead of interacting with students. The COVID years showed us that technology is not an acceptable replacement for class participation and human interaction. Yet schools are getting rid of experienced teachers so that they can give each student 24/7 Chromebook access. Teaching is a human interaction, and technology merely augments it, not replaces it. Let's look back to when the US ranked high in education and bring back some of those strategies, instead of letting technology be the sole focus of schooling.
At Beaky Y5P wrote,
I taught my son the alphabet at 18 months old, sight words at 2, fluently reading by 3 years old. I didn't wait for the teachers to teach him.
Ed Ab 83 wrote,
As a homeschool mom of 3, this breaks my heart. My second grader couldn't read due to learning disabilities. But we slowed down and found out what worked for her, and she is now reading Harry Potter. Yes, she is a grade behind, but I'm glad I was able to catch it early. We are going to work through the summer to catch her up to grade level.
At John K79 wrote,
I'm 46 and retired in WAS, considering becoming a teacher to give back to the community. since pay doesn't matter to me, but after watching this, I've changed my mind. I certainly don't have what it takes to put up with the entitlement.
At Burntreve 83 wrote,
If Gen Alpha keeps continuing to not read or write, they're getting rid of their crucial function to survive, and might die at one point their lifetime.
Colomunch wrote,
I honestly think it's crazy that people aren't teaching their kids to read. My youngest brother is Gen Alpha, and he loves reading. But also that might have to do with her. My mom taught him and used screen time, which was more than she gave us, but basically it was locked behind you doing half an hour of reading, you get a half an hour of screen time. Or you play the piano for your allotted time, and you get that same amount of time as screen time. Which I think did help at least in the learning to read category, but also because he read so much he just learned to like it. And he wasn't allowed to have really any screen time during the week because the week is for school. So this is an iPad kid as much.
At Sacred Seraphim 3987 wrote,
Another comment said it best, it's an American culture problem. Teachers don't have authority to maintain a classroom. Parents do not enforce any form of learning environment at home, then blame teachers because their kids don't want to learn. I can literally teach a crackhead how to do math, but no one can teach someone a desire to learn.
Economadrid 7819 wrote,
Education starts at home. Adding to teaching values, it's at home where potty training, speaking, and reading starts. And there are still entitled parents who don't care about the teacher's actual job, which is not babysitting their children, as if teachers didn't have a life outside of school.
At D44TX wrote,
There is no proof they can't read. Because of social media, the few that don't know are on blast, but every generation has had the same amount of idiots, if not more. These channels are ran by dimwits with no critical thinking skills.
At SomeDude9576 wrote,
Wife is a professor at a state college. None of her students can read or write. Her writing-intensive classes are 500-word essays, and it's still an AI-generated bloodbath. We're cooked.
At NickHass7757 wrote,
Are you really continuing the generational nonsense? As part of your generation, what did reading get us without objectivity? So many wars protecting Israel leading up to genocide? Yeah, our generation was the bomb. See what I did there? You suck, and so does every generation.
At Grimspider9212 wrote,
I do not agree with teachers telling parents to teach their kids. Yes, parents should help, but it should not be a requirement. The education system is broken. Rather than focusing on the necessary basics and making sure kids are extremely strong at the basic skills, they glance over it to teach things the mass majority of people will never use, much less need. That is the problem with education today.
At Samantha Witzman 5252 wrote,
When did parents stop reading with their children? I didn't ground mine, however, when my eldest would misbehave, he was told to read, and then I'd quiz. My youngest hated reading, so he got the dictionary. Ask him a word, he'll give the definition.
PMVRO1G wrote,
What dumbest thought one? My child should be potty trained 4 years after the training year. 900. That say teacher's job to teach them. Did they think they were taught potty training by a teacher? Dere, 5.
Keelanit wrote,
If they can't change themselves, obviously implying some of them do change themselves. What in the actual F? If they can't change themselves, they can go to the bathroom. How long are they going to wear a darn diaper?
At Mari Blue Cat 85 wrote,
I remembered my brother had my nephew read an Amelia Bedelia book, and the kid struggled getting through it, but my brother pushed him to sound things out.